Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Hope you're doing well. Today we are back with another Sunday special where I share some thoughts for this upcoming week. I do apologize. Today I'm a little bit later than usual. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it so I can get this video out to you guys as soon as possible. Down below, if you don't have a ton of time and you want to skip ahead, you can actually see the markets that I will be doing here in today's analysis. So I've got euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen, and gold. So stay tuned. We're going to be taking a look at each of these markets and talking about some setups that I potentially see. Now, granted, these are setups that I am potentially interested in taking or looking at sometime this coming week. Now, if you want to actually see the trades that I personally take, I share all of my analysis, my entries, my exits, and all of that sort of thing inside of the A1 Trading community, which there is information on that down below in the description. So check that out if you want to join us. There's a chat room. You get to communicate with the rest of the group, and you'll be able to see my trades as well as some of the other trades being taken by our top analysts. So that is that. So let's go ahead and jump into this one. So let's start with euro dollar here and talk about kind of what happened this past week and what may be happening this coming week. Now, the big thing here is that last week we did get some really nice sell-off overall on the euro dollar, and then we saw some recovery here. Now, the way the market ended last week was really what's interesting to me because we see this sort of break and retest action that's been going on here on the higher time frames. In fact, we can see it on the dollar on the daily chart on the euro dollar here. You can see price breaks underneath this key level of support, right? We had supportive levels all along the way here as price was back and forth. And then the last couple days there, we saw the break underneath. And then this week, we actually got the retest, which is the big thing here. So let's drop it back to the 4-hour chart. And you can see what was a previous level of support now acting as resistance. In fact, look at the way price comes up here pretty strong, pretty, thoroughly trying to get up to that point, and then sellers immediately kind of jumped in here towards the end of the week and sold it off. Now, will that continue? I would say that there's a good chance that does continue. Now, again, back to the daily chart, I think, as I mentioned last week, that the euro dollar probably wants to have some healthy pullback here to look for opportunities to retest longer term areas of value. The most notable one that I mention often on my channel is, you probably already know it, that 200-day moving average, okay? So this 200-day simple moving average is a big long-term indicator of the trend to me. Now, we are above that. In fact, we've got the 20 period and the 200 period both trending up overall. We've moved back underneath that 20 period, but I think longer term, it looks like price wants to come back, retest this area of value, and potentially for me, that means looking to get long there. We're not quite there, and this is more of a longer term outlook on the euro dollar for sure. And if we jump back again one more time to the 4-hour chart, the idea here is that I think that there is some potential bearish play, and there's a couple different setups. My favorite being, of course, just selling into the retest there. I loved that setup, and price did come up to that point last week. If it revisits that, there may be opportunities in my view to look for some sort of sell pressure there. And ultimately, there's another setup on the sell side that I like here, which would be a break underneath this swing low. So you can actually see we saw price come down here, right? Kind of formed a little bit of a double bottom. Price did rally for a little bit, but if price comes down to that point with some sort of conviction and breaks underneath, that to me triggers the next level of sell pressure. So that is how I am currently looking at euro dollar here on that 4-hour chart. So that's what I am currently looking at. Let's take a look at the pound dollar here. We're looking at the 4-hour chart. You can see entered into kind of a consolidation zone here towards the latter half of last week. For the most part, we saw this big sell off. This was actually before euro dollar started getting selling off or sold off, right? The pound dollar kind of led that fall. And you can see, again, most of the action here back and forth. Now, on the daily chart, it's a similar story. But the one thing that I like here on the pound dollar and why I think it actually has bullish potential is notice how price comes down here. And we did get a proper retest of that 200-day moving average. Similar to how I'm viewing euro dollar, I view this as that longer term area of value. We actually close out the week above that 20 period moving average, which to me is a bullish signal. And I think that there is potential. So again, when we look at that 4-hour chart where we have this range, to me, a break above the top of that range is bullish. So seeing something like this and like this, I love the idea of looking for long setups there on pound dollar. And that is one setup for sure that I will be actively looking at because it is close proximity to price right now for potential longs this week on the pound dollar. So What that would mean to me is looking to get long on a retest here, potentially putting a stop underneath some sort of structure point, something reasonable to me. The middle of this range looks decent. That's, let's see roughly how many pips that is. Roughly 130 to 150 pips, that sort of range on the swing trade to me is not terrible, especially considering if price does get bullish and we head back to a reasonable target area of, levels up here, right? I know that's terribly drawn line. Let's see if I can do a little bit better. There we go. A little bit better up there. So if price were to get up into this area, that gives you a pretty large range in terms of pips to the upside. That's talking almost 500 pips of movement to the upside. So that to me looks like a pretty decent setup to consider. Again, as always, these are my personal opinions. I'm not here to tell you what you should do as a trader. I'm sharing my own personal analysis. And again, if there are any trades that I actually end up taking, I will be sharing them with all the full details inside the A1 trading community. USD Jpy is going to be our next one here. Let's take a look at that 4-hour chart, see what's going on here. Not too much here. We've been trending down pretty steadily overall with a weakening dollar recently. In fact, this little trend line here might actually be one to watch for. You can see we've just steadily held this on as a sell opportunity. So to me, I'm just going to stick with the trend here and probably be more interested in sells here than longs. Now, that could flip this week if we were to see some sort of bullish potential. This sort of setup is totally something I could reevaluate and jump on board. But for now, not seeing those bullish tendencies, still seeing bearishness hold up along this downward trend line. So that is not yet valid. Again, any trades that I take, I'll share the full details inside of the group. Let's move on to gold here. Gold on the 4-hour chart, kind of doing something similar to euro dollar, right? In fact, these two pairs actually look very similar right now. You've got gold was in a consolidation zone, was able to break to the low side, retested. And this week's going to be big because for gold, if this holds as a seller's level, it could very possibly lead to a retest of that double bottom and maybe even beyond, right? If we were to break up below this level and get a retest, there could actually be sell pressure beyond that point. In fact, that to me is a setup that I personally like the idea of looking out for this week on gold. So that's all I've got, guys. I know a little bit shorter than usual, but I want to get this video out to you as fast as possible. So make sure to like, subscribe, support the channel if you are not already subscribed, and we'll see you back in the next video. Thanks so much.